Hey guys, this is Teleth. Just finished my last final, and apparently that means it's time to play Mage. I always talk about Mage as being one of the best classes you can play if you're looking to improve at Grand Chase. And so I think this video is going to be about why, and maybe give some advice for people looking to play the class. Two disclaimers before I start. First is that my army is not ugly, and if you call it ugly, I will punch you in your face. My army is glorious. Clearly some sort of mix between a Heartless and a Black Mage from Final Fantasy. I haven't decided yet. It's one of those two. So, yeah. And two, I am not a Mage main. Everything here is my observations and my experience with the class, and I am certainly not the best person to ask about them. So, I think Mage is one of the best classes that you can learn to play for two reasons. The first is that it is one of the easiest early classes to learn to play. There's very little in the way of technique or intimate understanding of the game and the way it's played that you need to actually know in order to play the class well. What you do need, you need patience and you need some foresight, and a little bit of intuition as well. So, it's fairly easy to learn. It's not like you're picking up Archer. Archer would be, I mean, if you didn't know very much about this game or you're looking to improve, Archer would be a hell of a class to start with. I'm still not even sure how I'm going to do a video about it, if I am going to. It's going to be a really tough one, because I'm not actually very good at Archer. So, yeah. Mage is much easier to play. It's very straightforward, it's very explainable. There's a clear cause and effect, reasons for every action, and it's a lot slower than other classes. So you can take your time and look at the game and, you know, play it smart. So, and the other reason is this teaches control, restraint, and foresight. I know I just said that, but I'm saying it again. Foresight is kind of a big deal. It's something nobody has anymore. This game kind of became saturated with classes that are action-oriented, and, you know, go, 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 you've got Striker, zooming along. Everybody moves out of the way for Striker. Striker does not move out of the way for anyone else, unless it's a Geese. Geese is the same way. They don't need to particularly fear their opponents attacking them. And they don't need to fear retaliation for any mistakes they might make. And so, they're very popular because of that. And that's the reason that a lot of them would never even look at a class like Mage. Because Mage is the opposite. You need to make every action count. Every move you make needs to be a smart, calculated decision, or you get punished severely. So, if you were to take the kind of foresight and the other skills you would learn from playing Mage and apply them to, let's say you play Striker. Your Striker is going to get 10 times better. You may not notice it very much when you fight other Strikers, you know, inexperienced players who don't really know what they're doing, because you can still just rush them. But if you bring that kind of Striker to me, for example, while I'm playing SM, I'm going to destroy you. I'm not bragging, it's just the way it is. I'm going to rip you to pieces if you think you can just run at me a bunch because you're Striker. So, this will improve your game against good players, because the game that good players play and the games that most players play, they're not even the same game. It's Grand Chase and something horrible that COG made, and yeah. So yeah. So, let's look at Mage's biggest weakness, and that is how predictable she is. Almost every attack she makes is a dedicated thing. You are committing to using Earthquake, for example. You cannot stop that once you do it. It's a very long attack. It has several movements to it. It's useful. It's useful if they run into it, but if they don't run into it, you're still stuck there doing this attack. You cannot cancel it. You could try to cancel it with your 1-bar, but Arme's 1-bars are very, very bad for that, and I'll explain that more in a bit. So, this is true for Magic Circle and Fireball. So, first rule of Arme is do not do more actions than you need to. If the action is not necessary, you probably shouldn't be doing it. I know some people like to think they have no pattern, or they're difficult to figure out, but it's not true. Everybody has a pattern. The more you act in the game, the more apparent your pattern becomes. If you like to if you like to guard the bottom left section, for example, I mean, that's not exactly a bad thing if they know it, but, if you like to get in the corner and do the triangle aerial attacks with whatever class, it just doesn't have to be Mage specifically, that's part of your pattern. I can expect every time you go over there to that corner that is what you're going to do. So that applies to Mage and to all classes, but it's important to Mage because if they know what you're going to do and you're doing attacks like Earthquake that are going to set you on that course, you're going to get hurt. You're going to get punished bad for missing. So you don't want to do more than you need to. And you especially for something like Earthquake. So how do you go about minimizing this downside? Well, my answer to that would be use the terrain. You'll notice in the video I do a lot of sliding off of platforms. That's a very effective way of minimizing your commitment because you are still moving while you're attacking, so I can start the attack from far away before I get to the point where I wanted to be when I used it. By the time I get to where I'm going, my attack is, it's finally hitting its apex, and it's dangerous. And they may not have even seen me coming. I mean, it's unlikely. It's still not particularly fast, but you're more difficult to predict because you have control over how you fall. And it's more difficult to punish because you're in the air for the most of it, and when you finally get to the ground, you're surrounded by your Earthquake. So in order to punish you for that, they're gonna have to have a really good, strong position against you. They're gonna have to be like on the ground behind you, immediately outside of your Earthquake's range, ready to special. It's harder to punish something like that because the position you need to be in is very specific. So that's a very effective way of minimizing Earthquake and Magic Circle and Magic Circle's commitment. So you're not as forced along this path. The other main terrain use is dashing down through platforms. I think a long, long time ago in a game far, far away, we used to call that a lightning dash. You go much, much faster when you dash down through a platform. And with invincibility, you've got about half the map's range that you get to dash down invincible through. So that's a big deal. It's a very effective escape method. So you pretty much always want to be on a platform, if you can. Being on the ground, on the bottom of the map, about the most dangerous place for an army of any class to be. You don't have a step. You can't zoom away. Once you dash, I mean, you can manipulate it a little bit. You can slow yourself down a little bit, you can jump in the middle of it, but they know more or less where you're going to go. And if they guess right, then you're going to get hurt. So it's a bad place to be. So yeah, the lightning dash is a very big deal. And you got your fireballs, which go with that very nicely if they're chasing you. So coming up to what is arguably the most important attack that Mage has is the aerial attack. That tiny little lasts a millisecond energy wave or whatever. Probably the most important attack you have. Unlike your other attacks, this attack does not require a commitment. It is incredibly fast. It's instant, really. You push Z, you instantly have this little blade of light in front of you. So that's going to be what you're doing when you're not doing anything else. That's going to be what makes it difficult to approach you. You can knock people down and get them away, and you can run away too. So it's a very, very strong attack. It does a decent amount of damage. Well, I mean, it's an aerial attack, I guess. So it's what you're doing when you're not doing other things. It's what keeps them away. It's sort of like a barb or a spiky shell or whatever. I don't know what you want to call it. That, warns your opponents, hey, I can still hurt you. I can still knock you down and mess your special up, and don't rush me. And that's an important message for Mage to send, because Mage is very vulnerable to classes that do that. A lot of rushing, very aggressive things like Striker or PK. But this attack, the aerial attack, has a lot more uses than just that. I would argue that the aerial attack is almost your main source of damage. Second to your specials. It's the kind of thing you put alongside everything else you do. Every time you knock them down, you're doing damage. Every time you hit them with a fireball, just smack them with it. you're just stacking that little bit more a little bit extra damage on top of all the damage you're already doing. If you stone curse someone while they're in the air, jump and immediately use that aerial attack to try to hit them before they land. It's just a little bit more damage you can stack onto that stone curse. So that's an important use for that special. And then there's its uses in facilitating grabs and specials. Knocking people down when you're in platforms, which is where you will be a lot as Mage, is a big deal and can be extremely dangerous for the person getting knocked down. That's how my entire strategy of Thief works, but that's a different video. So you knock someone down on a platform, there's a decent chance they're going to fall. That's a chance for you to special. That's a chance for you to stone curse or grab them or smack them again with the attack. If you're really good at ground grabs or catch grabs or whatever you want to call them, like I can do them pretty consistently, I will probably smack them, they'll fall off, I'll drop and I'll hit them as I fall down, and then I'll grab them on the ground. So I just did 2 aerial attacks and a grab. That's almost another grab's worth of damage right there. And since I wasn't in a position to double grab, that's pretty good for me. And then same thing, you can use them with specials. And then there's also the Mage was kind of the first class to really use the drop and aerial them and then grab them immediately afterwards. Mage was kind of the first class to do that. You can do that with most classes. You just hit them with the aerial like the second you touch the ground and then grab before they fall. Which is not lag, incidentally. You can do it in practice mode. The bot won't actually get grabbed, but you can make yourself do the grab animation. It's just a matter of doing those actions so closely together that you get to do them both. So, I mean, there's another little bit of bonus damage. So yeah, that's kind of your basic skills. The basic attacks, I mean. So using those attacks in conjunction with each other. Like I said earlier, everybody has a pattern. What separates a good mage from a great mage is the ability to recognize their own pattern and alter it. That is extremely difficult. And I'm not very good at it. Which is why I lose a lot. Because I'll keep trying something that doesn't work, or I'll become so predictable in my actions that my opponent can find me and catch me out. So it's not so simple as just do something different. It's still part of your pattern. The pattern is much bigger than just like what attacks you're doing when. It's really hard to explain. I'm not going to try to. That's something you'll have to learn for yourself. Either you'll get it or you don't. But that's what makes a great mage player. It's the ability to recognize it and change it when they become aware that their opponent has figured them out, has identified their weak points, and is hitting them at them. So that's a very important thing. So you don't want to overuse any one special or any one attack. You'll notice in the video, I think, a lot of times I'll start a magic circle and I'll go all the way to 5 slashes to finish it, and then I'll stop the magic circle. Because of that, they may not expect it next time I actually finish it. It's just little things like that, little changes. Sometimes I'll earthquake, sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'll do a magic circle and do a fireball. Sometimes I'll do a magic circle and do an earthquake. That's all for the sake of just being random, almost. I mean, there's still a pattern there. The pattern is that there's no pattern, that I'm not actually making these moves based on something I've sensed in the opponent, which is why I'm not an amazing mage player. But that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. So it's important that you understand that if you want to ever be a really, really good mage player. So moving on to specials, which is Mage's magnum opus, I guess. You've got your 2 1-bars, Saber and Stone Curse. Neither of these 1-bars is good for avoiding attacks. They both have very short invincibility times. Those invincibility times are actually shorter than the delay. So if you are being hit in the middle of your delay, your special is cancelled. Your Saber goes away, you take flinch, and if you get hit in the middle of the Stone Curse, you don't actually complete the Stone Curse. You're just flinched. You've wasted your 1-bar. So you gotta be careful with those. So both of them can delay grab, but delay grabbing nowadays is not nearly as useful as it used to be. A lot of the new classes have specials, recovery attacks or specials that you can't really delay grab through. And it's almost riskier than it's worth, almost. An occasional delay grab is absolutely. If you're not always doing it, then they won't expect it. So be careful with that. Don't get delay grab happy. It's not a good idea. Especially if someone knows how to counter delay grabs. 2 bars, you've got reverse gravity, which is, I like land scamper, that's what we used to call it. I like land scamper, so I'm calling it that. And lightning bolt. Land scamper is Arme's most powerful attack now. It wasn't always that way, but it is extremely powerful. That being said, don't overuse it. This is like a mantra for every attack Arme has. Do not overuse it. Do not spam this 2-bar. It will not work. They will be expecting it all the time. So you got to use it in junction with all of your other attacks. It's very powerful though. You can do a lot with it, especially if they're falling a long distance. Stone Curse works well with it. Smack him with your aerial attack. Try to catch them on the ground, because the second they hit that ground, they take the damage. And if you catch them, well, they've hit the ground technically before you grab them. Because of regular server lag. Regular game lag. It's not even server lag. It's just the regular lag in the game. So all of that stuff works really well with it. Lightning Bolt has its uses. Very good if you are in a position behind your opponent, or a position where you pretty much have them trapped and they've specialed or something. Very effective and reliable method of dealing damage is the most important part. It's a reliable method of dealing damage. Meteor is, be careful with this. I recommend using it off platforms. It just makes you harder to find and grab during Meteor. It's not a reliable method of killing someone, so if they spawn in a bad position, for example, and you can get a reverse gravity on them, take that instead. You're just guaranteed the damage to maybe the Meteor damage. And the healing 3-bar. Today I learned that does not heal you yourself. So there's that. Yeah, not really applicable in 1v1 situation, and that's what I'm talking about. So I think I covered it, all that I meant to talk about. Rules are, don't overuse your attacks. Do not do it. Use terrain to your advantage. And be very careful with your specials. So remember, every action you make is has a consequence when you play Mage. And if you can learn to make actions that are all valuable, or all important, and most importantly, don't get you killed, then if you carry that over to any other class, it's an invaluable skill. It's extremely important, and it's definitely worth learning. And I think that's it.